Chapter 1, 1890, at the boarding house. Several days later, in the late afternoon, Addie arrived at Tom Mitchell's door at the end of the hallway to clean his room. She knocked perfunctorily, and not expecting him to be there because it was not yet evening, she walked right in. Addie gasped when she saw Tom Mitchell sitting at his desk. She almost dropped the basket she held in her hand. If Mrs. Beatty finds out one of her boarders was still in his room when I entered, Addie quickly blurted out an apology. I'm sorry, Mr. Mitchell. I'll come back later. She immediately backed out of the room, ready to close the door. Nonsense, Tom Mitchell said, putting his pen in the inkwell as he spoke. You don't have to do that. You can straighten things up while I'm here. I'll be working at my desk. Yes, sir, she said. She glanced over her shoulder and looked down the hall to see if anyone was watching her, but no one was there. She re-entered his room, closing the door behind her. Addie tried to work as if she were alone in the room. She did not dare look over at Tom Mitchell as he sat at his desk. But she did not have to look at him to know that even though he was sitting there, he was not working. She could feel the force of his gaze upon her while she worked. He was staring at her while she moved around his room, and she knew it. She finished her work as quickly as she could. She just wanted to get out of that room and away from that man. Alone with a white man in one of her rooms? I just hope Mrs. Beatty never finds out. She'll have my job for sure. She quickly gathered Tom Mitchell's clothes up off the floor, his shirt and collar, his nightshirt and drawers, and filled the basket. There, now, I'm finished. She felt a wave of relief. Then, looking down at her basket, Addie walked toward the door. But just as she started to pass Tom Mitchell, he reached out from where he sat at his chair and grabbed her arm firmly. Addie gasped and briefly held her breath, her eyes fixed on the basket. Oh my God! Her body tensed. What's he gonna do? What's he gonna do to me?
Alice,
There you are.
there you are. We've been looking all over. Are you crying? You never cry.
I don't cry. I didn't mean to make anyone worry. Why would I be crying?
Are you okay?
I just needed some air. I stopped at the bar.
You stopped at the bar?
I had a sip. Obviously, I'll be the worst mother ever.
Where is this coming from? Shoo! My mom upset you.
Your mom's fine.
His mom is not fine, Alice. It's not fine.
Jen, can you not? She's right. For once, it's not fine. I'll talk to her. She just doesn't have experience with families that are different.
She's your mom. She doesn't think I'm good enough for you. She's probably right. She's worried about her grandchild. She's right to be.
What she thinks doesn't matter to me.
It should matter to you. You lived inside her for 9 months. You breathed with her. Her heartbeat and your heartbeat were one. She's with you forever.
What are we talking about?
She's talking about the feelings adoptees have, you idiot. Never being held by the woman whose body you knew best.
I know what she's talking about, Jen. Can you leave us alone?
Alice, you're
crying.
I am. I didn't realize I was. I'll stop.
If you're upset, I'm here.
You can't do anything for me. I'm just sad, apparently. Why am I still crying? Maybe I'll just drown in my own tears. Won't that be strange? And you'll swim away? Jen, you ever notice that look on Mom's face? That sad look? Like she's grieving? You ever think she's grieving not having her own children?
yes.
She loves you and Jen more than anything.
I know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm just sad because my birth mom was sad. Maybe I'm damaged.
You're the opposite of damaged. You're like a superhero. You're the most amazing, strong, wonderful woman I've ever met. Sometimes I think you must be an alien. Alice, when I said marry me, I meant forever. I will never leave you.
I just don't believe that. And how do you know that I won't leave you first?
Alice. Jen,
What?
can't you see we're having a private conversation? You told me that you felt adoption was a gift. You don't have to be limited. You don't have to be limited by your birth family or your adopted family or anything. You can choose to be anything you want. You're free.
I thought that too, until I found myself with my own child to wonder about.
You'll be a great mother, Alice. I'm sure of it.
Must be nice to be sure of things.
I am sure.
But I don't know how to be sure of anything. I think I have a part missing in me.
It was me you were missing. Here I am.
Oh, Louis, no.
Well, I'm the one standing here telling her I love you, but you both say that's not enough. How much more of this am I supposed to take without having feelings of my own? Oh, an elephant in the room.
No, it's a dormouse of grief.
This is a weird party.
Blake's lips curled upward as he lifted a baggie to his dealer's level of vision. Top grade icing. You got something to pour this on? Piece of paper, maybe? Your table looks a little dusty. Oh, the dealer shrugged. Yeah? He went to the kitchen, came back with the cardstock ad, and laid it on the table. Hey man, steady yourself. You're going to spill some. The dealer's pale, thin hands shook as he cautioned Blake. Then a muscle under his eye went into a series of twitches. Yeah, I get pumped before the sniff. Blake dug his elbow into his ribs to still his hand. It was critical that the powder not touch his skin or go airborne and land in his eyes, nose, or mouth. He poured the baggie's contents onto the cardstock. I get that. Top grade Coke, huh? Where'd you say you got it? Where the best stuff comes from. Columbia. By way of my supplier in Chicago. A credible lie, and one his witness wouldn't live long enough to call him on. The dealer pulled a couple of short straws from his t-shirt pocket and handed one to Blake. No time like the present, Blake told him. The dealer did not protest or hesitate. He pushed the powder in a line with the straw, bent over, inserted it in a nostril, closed the other with his pointer finger, and sniffed in deeply. As he straightened, his satisfied smile faded in a flash. He collapsed before he drew another breath. The dealer's upper body landed bent over on the table. Blake pocketed the unused straw, stared at the dealer, and counted to 60. Carfentanil. No detectable taste or smell. A minuscule amount, less than a grain of salt, was enough to kill a human being. The perfect weapon to avenge the lives the dealer had stolen. After not so much as a twitch from the body, Blake withdrew 2 pairs of vinyl gloves from his side pocket, pulled them on, then fished out a lint-free cloth from the other pocket. He picked up the baggie and wiped it clean over and over. Careful not to step on the dealer's legs, Blake moved to his left hand. With practiced stealth, Blake held the baggie in the right hand and placed his left hand on the back of the dealer's, closed his fingers around the baggie's bottom edge, then let go. Beads of sweat broke from the pores on Blake's head and neck. Damn. He willed himself to calm down and finish the job right. He took a step back and wiped his head and neck with the arms of his jacket to catch any drops before they fell. As he did, it seemed every pore in his body had opened to release more nasty fluid. Move. He gathered the dealer's right fingerprints on the baggie's top half with the same 2-step technique and laid it on the table near the deadly powder. He backed away and visually scanned the room for any sign he had been there. Blake had touched nothing in the room with his bare hands, save the baggie that now had only the dealer's prints on it and the straw he had pocketed. Blake left the same way he had entered, through the back door of the ground-level condo the dealer had opened for him. His vehicle was parked in a residential street 2 blocks away. A breeze stirred and blew up some loosened autumn leaves around his legs and up to his chest. He pulled the hood of his windbreaker over his head and made his way like he was out for an evening walk in the dark. Corky. My phone jingled and I wrestled it from the back pocket of my jeans. Oakley High School flashed on the display, and my first thought was, is Rebecca okay? I had been her legal guardian the past 4 years. Long story. Corinne Alexson, Sergeant Corky? It was Rebecca herself. They took me to the principal's office. My protective instinct kicked in. Who took you? Officer Day. Oh, Rebecca, are you okay? Her voice quivered. No, I'm in trouble. I got suspended. Can you come and pick me up? Rebecca suspended? Be there shortly. At the awkward age of 14, her teenage ways posed a challenge now and then. What I considered mild, normal, expected rebellion as she moved from childhood toward adulthood. Overall, she was a good kid. Serious, smart, resilient, respectful, precious. I arrived at the Oakley High School complex, signed at the front desk, and headed to Principal Laura Golden's office. I spotted Principal Golden seated behind her desk, her deep, wrinkled face serious as all get out as she waved me in. Officer Casey Day stood next to Rebecca, who was perched on a visitor chair. Rebecca swiveled my direction. Her tear-streaked face was blotchy red, and my whole body ached for her, for all the trauma she had been through in her early life, and for whatever trouble she was in now. I zeroed in on Officer Day. Officer? Thanks for coming in, Sergeant. Rebecca was caught vaping in the girls' bathroom. His news bomb caught my breath as though I inhaled something myself. I searched Rebecca's eyes until she cast them down to her lap. Guilty as charged. My leg muscles tightened to keep me upright as I closed the space between us and leaned in inches from her face. You were vaping? Do you know what was in the cartridge? What you were inhaling? Her head dropped forward. It was like mango-flavored mist. You mean a cigarette with a mango flavor? She lifted her head and her eyes met at the same level. More tears sprung from their ducts. I guess. It was the first time in our relationship I felt angry at her and with sheer force of will stopped myself from shouting, You guess? You guess? Are you kidding me? I dug my thumbnail into my pointer finger to shift my internal pain to physical discomfort instead. Rebecca had a medical history of lung problems and she risked her health by vaping. 14-year-olds did not always have the best judgment, but that should have been a no-brainer for her. We'll talk about this later, I told her. Thanks for listening.
Grandma Lisa bought a house. It was near the city, and though the garden looked quite nice and really rather pretty, she knew at once things had to change, and this is why, you see. The garden there had little food for butterfly or bee. She started tearing out the plants. At first it seemed quite wrong. She ripped out English ivy, and the vinca soon was gone. This burning bush just has to go. That butterfly bush too. But Grandma, lots of butterflies just love it. Yes, they do. I know that, my sweet darling, but here's the rub, you see. They sip out all the nectar and are happy as can be. But they can't lay their eggs on it. When caterpillars hatch, they need specific leaves to eat. This bush is not a match. So we will add some other plants on which those creatures dine. Then caterpillar babies will have food to grow up fine. We started planting milkweed, some aster and black cherry. We planted willow, birch, and oak, and Grandma sure was merry. We planted things like violets that I had thought were weeds, but Grandma Lisa said they weren't. They're insect food indeed. We mostly planted native plants. That's their best food, you know. Then Grandma Lisa and we kids began to watch them grow. But Grandma, why do we need bugs? Don't they sting and bite? Well, if they must defend themselves, it's possible they might. But if you do not bother them, they'll rarely bother you. And there are such important jobs our insect friends must do. They pollinate the crops we eat, the flowers, shrubs, and trees. That honey you spread on your toast is made by busy bees. When animals and plants die off, the bugs begin to toil. They decompose what's left of them to make the good rich soil. And many other animals eat bugs to stay alive. If bugs aren't in our garden, then those creatures can't survive. But all our lovely planting was just step number 1. We wanted other animals to come enjoy the fun. We knew they'd like the garden, but so that they would stay, we made a natural habitat where they could live and play. We put down rocks and stepping stones where salamanders hide, and made a birdhouse where the birds could raise their chicks inside. A pile of branches way out back gave little critters cover from hungry foxes, hawks, and owls when nearby they would hover. The stone wall made a nice home for a chipmunk family and a funny little bumpy toad as cute as he could be. Some water filled a bird bath and a saucer on the ground where birds could bathe and frogs and lizards gathered all around. We left a patch of dried up dirt for birds to dust their feathers and a muddy place where butterflies could gather all together. And soon the creatures came around. What a splendid bunch! But then I noticed some of them ate others for their lunch. I really was quite worried that birds ate up the bugs, and hawks ate up the smaller birds, and toads ate up the slugs. The foxes caught the rabbits, and owls ate mice and voles if they couldn't scurry fast enough and hurry down their holes. But Grandma said, "My dear, it's fine. No need to be appalled. It's just the way that nature works. A food web's what it's called. All creatures living on this earth must simply find a way to hunt for food and feed their young. It happens every day. And though to us it may seem cruel, it's natural and okay that sometimes they're the predator and sometimes they're the prey." Her garden near the city now attracts a lot of bugs. They jump and fly and creep and crawl while Grandma gives us hugs. The butterflies and hummingbirds flit from flower to flower, and I could gladly watch the frogs and lizards for an hour. The birds feed on the insects, and bats eat the mosquitoes. The fireflies twinkle in the dark, my favorite kind of beetles. The toads and birds and other creatures make their special sounds. It's like a lovely concert with their noises all around. All day and night they sing their songs, and music fills the air. They hum and buzz and chirp and croak. I love just being there. The end.
All the work featured in this episode is available for purchase at bookshop.org/shop/MiPA. Your purchase from Bookshop directly supports independent booksellers, and when you use MiPA's affiliate link, you're directly supporting MiPA's programming as well. Visit bookshop.org/shop/MiPA.